Hi, welcome to Cytracom Today. I'm Noah Sessions, Vice President of Marketing at Cytracom, and this is our partner Wayne Hunter of Avtek Solutions, President and CEO.
Good to see you, bud.
How's it going?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. I guess the first thing, Wayne, I'd like to start off was, Happy Veterans Day. Thanks for your service. Definitely appreciate
You're welcome.
that.
I'm glad to have done it. I did a post out earlier today that is one of those things that I was very privileged to do, and it also blessed me in my life. It always set me up for success. So anyone that's doing it, I always support them.
Yeah, I texted my mom and both my uncles. I have Navy, Marine, and my mom was Air Force. But one question I have for you, I believe you served on submarines in the Navy.
I was on nuclear fast attack submarines. Yeah, I was actually on the USS Dallas.
And I guess the question I have is, I know there's a lot of technology then, but how does that set you up for success in your career and your path you've gone down in technology?
Well, that was the whole point of going in. When I grew up doing mechanics and everything like that, but I wanted to get into technology, and coming from a very poor background, it was easy to go do and get access to high-end technology instead of going to college. And so that was my path to get into the industry. And after 6 years of advanced electronics and on the nuclear subs, and coming out of that type of training, I come out and went into the supercomputing right off the bat. So it really set us up.
So it got you started in your career, and obviously I know you've kind of done quite a wide range of things, but you've been kind of big business, you've had some high level positions, but I think, I don't remember how long ago you decided to peel out and do your own thing.
Started my first company in March of 1996.
Okay.
I was working actually for a high-end storage company in those days, doing oil patch and scientific black hole type of storage, high-end. And the market was shifting, and a lot of the commercial environments didn't know how to integrate disaster recovery and be able to have large-scale databases being protected and be able to restore real time.
Right.
So it was a niche. So I started a business doing that, doing pure consulting. Ran that for about 7 years until I sold it. And through that, all that acquisition ended up with EMC as a senior vice president in the services organization. And then I'm just too much of an entrepreneur. So they had a package, as they call them, and I took it and tried to actually do a little semi-retirement. And then my wife says, it's time for you to go find something to do. So in 2004, started up Avtek Solutions.
But definitely, obviously, all that whole career path sets you up where you are now. And really what I want to talk today is, growing your MSP business, which you've been obviously working on. But, one thing is, I know you're growing the business. How do you get pipeline for your business? What's your process?
That's the hardest job we have, because everybody's trying to do it. There's a lot of us out there, not just MSPs, but value-added resellers, VARs as they call them. You got the main manufacturers, direct sales reps. You got all these people bombarding everyone out there.
Right.
How many emails a day do you get saying, hey, I got something for you? So you got to be creative. A lot of ours, we've been successful based on background and word of mouth and going through that. And then as we started advertising, I never did a lot of it until probably the last 3 or 4 years. And that's through meeting folks like Cytracom and some other folks that I work with, and learning. You always got to be learning. Right. If you do one thing, it's successful, and you just stick with it, it's going to change. It's going to stop. So you always got to be looking for new ideas. I'm doing things that I've never done before today. So it's one of those things where you try something and you adapt. You talk with others. Being on some of the committees that I'm on in little groups like ASCII group, how I met you guys. Sharing information, like learning from each other, that's what has helped us do what we're doing. So,
Avtek, what's your full portfolio you offer? Because I know it's a wide range, but what are your kind of main staples you have? I appreciate Cytracom is one of them, but what are some of the other ones?
Well, we started off, like I said, pure services. I developed, and we used to be subcontracted by all the big boys, and we're doing high-end architecture and development. But in 2008, when the market turned, it was one of those things where our customers asked us, saying, well, you design it and deliver it, why won't we buy the product from you too? Because I was never selling any product. But because the customers was asking me to, we started. And it all started really around storage and backup recovery initially. A lot around things that Dell Technologies and HP Technologies and various different vendors. And it grew from there. But most of the time, what we grew our portfolio against was what our customer base was asking for, what it was going to. Is it something I can be repeatable in solutions and put my name on it? Right. I know when we go install it, it's going to work, and that can be trusted to go do it. So that's how that evolved. And that's how we got to become an MSP, is exact same way. And we had customers that staffs were shrinking, but technology was getting more complex, and they still had a lot of things they needed to do. So we started off where they just asked us to be on retainer, to be there for them, to help them. And then it evolved as, can you be here when I'm on vacation? Then can you do the patching for us? Can you do that? And it just evolved over time.
So it just really evolves, I guess, on your relationship with that particular, customer and what their needs are. You've really adapted to that. But what do you see kind of going forward? I mean, obviously, I know security is a big thing these days. Backup, which you've been doing that, the support. I mean, where do you see things evolving in the next, 2 to 3 years?
Well, everything everybody talks about cloud and moving off-prem, on-prem. We have customers that's gone off-prem, but they come back on-prem. It's about data control, but a lot of what's going on today is, regardless of where the data is, it's about the security and access. So security and access of information, but also communication. So those are the two areas we're probably growing the most in our communication side of it, and helping people be able to communicate, especially what's happened all this year in 2020 and people going remote. They worked some remote, but they didn't have to do it on a daily basis. Right. So that affected not only communications, but also securing the data. Now there's more points of where data can flow out of the company and be possibly on someone's home network that's not protected like it is in the corporate office. So those are the two areas we've probably grown the most in this year.
And I guess that's it's a good segue. If you think about COVID and everything, obviously we're not even the second wave. We're fully in it right now. How's that? Obviously, that's impacted people working from home, and they've got, you're dealing with home routers. How have you dealt with that? Like helping them work around that?
It kind of come around both sides. We've been working from home for 4 years. So to us, it was like another day at the office. So what we did for us, we knew how to do it and secure the information and be able to have people be mobile and work. So all we did was actually replicate what we did for ourselves. Okay. That made it easy. So whether it was our banks, that we were taking 140 users remote within 2 days and using some of the technology we had, and this is with customers we never did managed services with. It was just the VAR piece of it. They have their own IT staff and everything, but they were so overwhelmed because of our reputation that we was able to come to us, and we was able to do what we did for ourselves for them. So it made it easy for us because we'd already developed our own model for it just for ourselves.
Well, that's great. And I guess, what are you seeing now? I know obviously the big shift to work from home is kind of ongoing, right? It happened, I guess, in the March timeframe. Do you see, kind of like data, it sounds like data, some is going to the cloud, some is coming back. Do you see people migrating back? I mean, Cytracom, most of us, I guess half the companies here at the office, half are remote, and people have to make their own choices there. But do you see a lot of your customers going back to the office now? Or do you think they're going to stay remote?
It's a mix. When corporations are understanding that I can be just as productive, if not sometimes more productive, by being at home, and they see how their costs, their CapEx costs and things of that go down, and they can be more efficient. They don't need all that floor space to do what they need to do. You're going to see where it's actually going to become a hybrid model. Because there's some things you really need to get together and put a face-to-face, and yes, you can do Zoom meetings, you do all that, but still there's going to be this where you have a subset that's going to be in office. You got people, it's all about the people too, because we have folks that working remote, working from your home every day, and just communicating through phone, a Zoom, or something like that, they survive just fine. But you have those others that they need that human interaction all the time to be efficient. And so you'll have both of those. So I see it as there's going to be more people working at home than there used to be, but you're still going to have the office space as well.
And I guess, on the sales or the biz dev side of your business, how has that impacted you? Because I don't know, you probably do a lot of calls and you do the video calls and things like that. I guess has that changed for you, or are you doing more of that now? And how does that impact your business as far as trying to close new deals?
We probably do more video calls than we've ever done before. Typically, it was a conference call to set up a meeting, and then we'd have a face-to-face, because having a face-to-face and someone seeing you and getting that relationship built, that's what a lot of people actually operate off of. Now you're having to do that either on just a call or over video, and while you can do it, you'll still have some of those that's going to want to meet you face-to-face. Now, I've closed a lot of business with people that I've never met face-to-face. So part of it has to be your messaging. Regardless if you're face-to-face or not, how you present yourself, what you're doing, your belief in what you're doing, your confidence comes out of how you speak, that has to be there. And if you're not confident in what you're doing, you're apprehensive about it, doesn't matter if you're face-to-face or on the phone, that already sets you back. So you got to be prepared, either way.
Do you sense a difference between the two, either face-to-face or remote? Is there like a close rate difference you see, or kind of sense? Is one works better than the other?
That's an interesting question, because it depends on the person. Because a lot of it is, I'm an extrovert. It doesn't matter if I'm sitting in the same room with you or talking to you on the phone. I can have the same conversation. But you have some folks that's a little bit more introvert. They need to be able to see the reaction of someone to be able to go off and do it. So those people struggle a little bit more on the phone and talking, because they don't have that feedback that gives them that comfort in what they're trying to do. So it's a mixture. I know some folks are out there, they're struggling really hard on trying to get new business and close new business. But for us, like I said, it's another day at the office.
And do you have like playbooks, or do you have things that you use to look for new business? How do you I know you've hired more sales talent and things like that, and you're working through that. But
the playbook, it's I don't know if it's necessarily a new playbook, but it's just a living playbook is a better way of putting it, because like I was saying earlier, you can't get stagnant on what you're doing. You got to be learning and evolving. So you just take for how long we've known each other. We're going through how many different iterations trying to do some of the same things and taking new ideas off of a WebEx. What are different ways we can go approach a WebEx to maybe get more people to come to it? So it's one of those things where you always got to do it, but when we go out, we got platforms to be able to go out with lists, and we try to go get these meetings with people, but I try to have a relationship. You know how I build my relationship with you guys is, it's not about, oh, well, you're my vendor, you got to help me go do this. How can I help you, and how we help each other go generate those leads? And sometimes those leads might not go to me. They'll go to another partner. But to me, I gain from that because we all trust each other to go develop that. So we all win in the end game.
Well, I think, at Cytracom, we really work on, obviously, the relationship as well as a partnership, working together, because it's a pretty unique relationship. I think we have all the partners and how we work, which is a lot different from some of the other vendors out there. I guess, Wayne, from a, maybe, if it's a new MSP or an MSP seeing this chat we've got going on, what recommendations do you have for them to help grow their business? I mean, it sounds like obviously you always have to be learning and thinking about new things, and you've
become involved in a community. Talk with your peers. Get to know others that have already been through it, that are still going through it, still learning. Lots of times in business, when you're out there and you're competing with others, you don't want to talk with them. You don't want to share information. You don't want to have that because you're afraid, well, if I do that, they'll take my business. That's not necessarily true. In the IT industry, yes, we may go after the same customers, but lots of times there's a lot of people I talk with and give ideas to, and I get ideas from. We never cross paths in business. We're able to go do that. So I'd say whether it's an ASCII group as an IT community or another group, there's all kinds out there. Get involved in that and learn and share, and that'll help you jump up, because there's also resources there that can help you build your business, because most of us in IT that started their own business, they didn't come from a business background. They have no clue about business. Right. I learned mine on the fly.
And you're a really good sales guy. I know some of our partners, they're very technical and they don't have the outgoing extrovert personality, so that's learning how to position and sell, or getting somebody that can help them do that in their business. But you mentioned, I think communities are big in MSP world. You mentioned ASCII. I'm thinking of channel partners, or what's the one we?
The channel company, CRM.
Channel,
Yep.
CRM, channel companies, I know you've been very active there.
Big exchange events, yep.
And I know you're an AutoTouch user, so Datto community. There's different communities. Robbins is one. I mean, so I think to your point, I think if I was saying to a new MSP, maybe find your community, because I think the accountability groups that can help you with your business, I think you can obviously learn from others, get mentored, and then learn best practices, because everybody's learning together, I think.
It's always evolving.
So I guess, obviously your current customers, what's your process for your current customers to keep them engaged? Do you do quarterly business reviews, or how often do you stay in touch with those folks?
We haven't really put a formal QBR, as they call them, or quarterly business reviews, but we communicate. I probably communicate with my customers at least once to twice a week to every 2 weeks. So we always set up in our company about we communicate. So we set up where we have a customer base, and I have our lead technical guys. Well, I have them set up to where there's a certain group of customers that they're the lead tech for those customers. And then the sales reps that's working those customers, it's a team effort. So either I'm hitting the customer and talking with them, just, hey, what's up, Joe, what's going on? Or Andy's calling and talking to them. So instead of it just being one person, we attack it where our whole team does the communication, because then it allows us to cover more, and also those conversations won't be different, and it helps us uncover opportunity. I may uncover something that Andy has nothing going on, but he may find something that I didn't, just because our conversations are different.
Well, I think that's the key. Obviously, you're talking to them, making sure technically everything's working for them. And I think you obviously, and again, I think you have a keen eye for this, but I think it's something that you have to learn. I don't know if people are always born with it, uncovering new opportunities. Again, for our perspective, it's communication. Do they have an old PBX? They can, that's an opportunity you'd spot coming in the door, but a lot of people wouldn't. But those are things they need to think about, where that's an opportunity to give them a great new solution to do a lot more. And it's the same thing with security and backup. You see that. That's why I didn't know if you had a playbook, but it sounds like you've got the full team really engaged, which is good. I'm sure you guys.
Well, part of us, we always say, and I'm not the only one, most everybody out there is saying, my job is to solve problems. So it's easy to ask what problems you have going on, what's frustrating you every day. But when I walk in and I'm looking not only as what phone are they picking up, or what computer do they get on your desk, or I'm paying attention to what wireless APs are attached to the ceiling. I'm looking at their environment, but also listening in those conversations, not a very specific question, but what are the side conversations that are going on? Be aware of what others are talking about and what frustration points that they're bringing up. Because there's a lot of times I'll catch that there's a problem with something, and it may be something that's just a simple configuration, and I'll ask them what's going on and say, well, did you try to do this? And they go fix it. I didn't get paid for that, but they'll remember me next time when they have a problem. Right. And now, marketing is not just I'm sending them a email about, hey, I got a WebEx, or here's my data sheet, here's a white paper. But when I'm having just general conversations, giving those little tidbits or helping them along with something that is easy to do, take care of it, you just did a marketing event right there. Because now they're going to remember you didn't ask them for something, you gave them something before you ever asked them for anything. That probably has helped us be more successful than anything.
Well, I guess that's one piece of advice, if people can take away from this. To me, it's like you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen, be observant, and you'll find opportunities. I think you'll uncover them. And to your point, it may not be solved that day, but you can bookmark that one away and come back. But again, I think that's a skill or trait people can learn if they're not. I think you're a natural with it, and some guys they learn that. And I think they just learn to watch for those things. And I think it'll help their sales when they're going out and doing that.
I always got to watch myself, because I'll get excited about talking about what I'm doing, and sometimes I don't take that breath and let others talk and come into it. So I'm always, it's an ongoing thing, because anytime that you're excited, you're going to be wanting to talk with everybody. And when you do that, you're not listening. So you and I have had this conversation, the good Lord gave me 2 of these and 1 of those, use it that way,
So again, and I know how do you drive engagement? So, it sounds like you've got a good process you're working through for your current customers. And I know it's definitely a challenge to get the new customers because there's so much competition out there. No matter, communications, there's a lot of competition, and everything you do, computers. But what is your process for, finding new leads and engaging new people? And I know that's something you're probably always evolving on as well. I mean, what have you found that works or that you can?
There's no one thing that just you can hang your hat on.
Right.
I work it with working with my vendors and talking with them, what they're doing, what they got coming out that's new, doing email campaigns, talking with my existing customer base. Who do you know that needs help? I talk to my guys at these banks, and a lot of the banks that I'm in is because over the years I worked. Now, some of the things that's helped me the most is like in the banking industry, they have a community that they go to. And they go, well, I worked and got part of that community to where then, by being in it, the bank started sharing information about what we did for them in that community, and that led us to opportunity that we'd been trying to get for a year and never could get time of day. But then because I got them knowing what we were doing and they talked about it to the others, then we won opportunity there. So it's an ongoing thing. Anytime you're walking around and looking at them, spending time on LinkedIn. I know how to do stuff in LinkedIn that I never thought I'd ever want to do.
Have you tried a LinkedIn Navigator?
Yes. The Sales Navigator? Yes.
Yeah.
I've used it.
What's your experience with that?
It's like anything else. You got to spend time on it. That's probably the biggest commodity thing we have that we have the least amount of is time to go do stuff because we got so many things to go do. But what I finally started doing was setting time out. I'm going to spend this much time today, this much time tomorrow doing this, and not answer the phone, focus and do it. Because when the phone rings, it's just natural for us just to reach and grab it. But focusing on what I need to do, especially from a marketing sales standpoint, is you got to reserve it, focus on it, and do it. And if you spend the time, it doesn't happen today. I have a friend of mine, actually a cousin, he's a DJ at a radio station. And one of the things he told me, he says, look, you can go do marketing. If you just spend a month on it, you're really not going to get anything. You really got to spend about 90 days or more before you start seeing anything. But you got to be consistent every day doing it for that period before you start the feedback. So it's not one of the things we all like instant gratification. But marketing sales is not that.
Well, it's definitely an investment over time that you have to make, and to your point, you always have to be learning, and that's what from a marketing perspective. I see we send a lot of emails ourselves, and we actually have really good read rates and a lot of engagement, but it's everybody's inundated, and that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah.
And I have to sometimes look at myself because every day I delete so many emails. I get so many of them, and I know everybody does that because I don't have time. And you kind of scan for the important ones, and then you kind of move down the road. And that's how and I know that's a challenge for all of us, keeping people engaged. And I know your guys are trying to do that with your customers. We're trying to do that with our partners. So it's a challenge. Have you done a lot in the digital world other than emails, like social media? I know I see a lot of stuff you put out there. You seem to have a pretty good cadence there.
It's one of those things, that's one of those things learning and having to do. And that all goes how to take advantage of platforms. As an MSP, you don't have all that. You don't have a marketing department. You don't have all that. So that's where you got to really rely on your vendors and using the platforms they have. And most of the MSP vendors out there, they have platforms that you can actually engage in, set up, put your stuff in, and go run. So like Datto being one of them, their Market Now place, and going in, setting up, and you'll see the social drip campaigns and understanding, okay, lots of times people run one campaign. I don't, I run multiple campaigns at one time, but all different topic levels. And I stagger it on some I send out at 7:30 in the morning, some I send out about 11 o'clock in the morning, some I'll send out just right after 5:30 in the evening. I've learned over time is people like me are gonna look at that stuff at a certain time. And they got to set their days and go off and do it. But you got to be consistent. I used to not run it on weekends. I run it on weekends now. I actually get more hit rates during the weekend than I do during the week.
What kind of tools do you use to measure that? Do you measure to see what kind of engagement? Do you try to follow up or engage socially with those people?
Most of those platforms has the analytics already built into it. And so if you're also tying that into your website, so then using Google Analytics to monitor that, then you can actually gauge that. Or some of the platforms are out there. There's actually a platform that MSPs can use, and smalls can get started. If they got small enough accounts, they can get started free on it. But it's one from TriDigital called Honey, and you can get in, and it has all that tool set. You can track all your hit rates, open rates, unsubscribe rates. You can see every bit of that. So the tools are there. You just got to look for them.
Right. And the thing is taking that data and actually, what do you do with it, and then kind of figure out, because that's always a challenge too. What's working, what's not working, and we're always in that challenge as well. What's resonating and trying to get that message out, because it gets back to your point. What's the right message, and is it resonating? And then sometimes you have to double down on it, or you maybe get rid of that message and refocus.
Well, in that message, the thing that I'm playing with now and trying to understand, and it's the reason I'm looking at different things, is that message isn't a paragraph. That message is a 5 to 15 second snippet that's going to catch someone's eye. That's what I'm looking for, narrowing it down to just that. If so, I can put something in an email or on a WebEx post or a social media post, and it's a statement that takes 5 seconds to 15 seconds to read, get it short and have content enough that's going to catch their eye. That's what I'm focusing on now, because that's the attention span you're dealing with. You got to get their eyes in that 5 to 15 seconds. If you're not, you don't have them.
Gotcha. So we kind of talked, we've talked about a number of things, love your background's got you where you are, and, kind of your focus on, looking for new customers, nurturing your current customers. When you're working a deal, where do you get to the point, and I think you'd be really good at this, asking for the deal? Because I think a lot of people have that problem too. When do you actually say, hey, let's do business, or what do you need to close? I mean, sometimes you just have to ask the question, and you got to have the paper there and sign. I mean, what's your process for that, or what works best for you?
Well, first you should ask, if you're in sales, you should ask that question every time, not sometimes.
So every time?
Every time. That's what we're in the business for, is getting that deal. So if you're going in and talking with a customer and you don't ask for the opportunity, you just wasted however much time you've been there. You should be always asking. That's what you're going in there for. So when you go in, that meeting, even my very first time I try to meet someone, I'm asking them, what's it going to take for them to
So that's your strategy in every sales meeting?
Everything. Two things. I have a strategy, two things when I go in a sales meeting. One, I'm going to ask them for the deal. Two, I ask them to be a reference account. Every customer. It doesn't matter if it's a customer with one phone set I sell to, or a customer I'm putting in a $500,000 storage solution into. I ask them those two things. What is it going to take to close the deal, and are they willing to be a reference account?
That's great. I guess and obviously I don't want to talk too much about Cytracom. I mean, I love Cytracom, but I mean, what out of your, you got a bag of tools you go out and you're selling. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I think obviously Cytracom Voice Solutions is good to lead with, but do you have what do you lead with typically when you come in, or you really just assess the situation and figure out what's the best tool for that job at that point?
There's two types of salespeople I've always talked about. There's the box pusher and the solution guy. A box pusher is going to go in with a line card. I have this to sell. What do you want off of it? Solution guy is going to go in saying, what is your problems? But when I'm asking that problem, I'm also looking at other things, and I'm going to ask, well, what kind of issues do you have come up with your phone system? Because they might not even come up with that problem.
Right.
But that's one of those things where, as you're talking with them and you talk about listening to those side conversations, I know my package, what I'm going to go do, and I know things that are low-hanging fruit. Because if I walk in and I see that they got a Nortel phone system that's an old copper system, that's a bunch of analog lines coming in, well, you can bet I'm going to ask them, let me show you my phone I got right here and how this works on your network, because that's an opportunity.
But again, that's a solution sales mentality. You're looking, see what the problems are, you come up with a solution, which is great. And I guess segueing again off communications, what do you see out in the field a lot? Because this is kind of a debate we've been having internally. Do you see a lot of on-prem opportunities, or you have customers that are, another voice over IP or like a LEC? I mean, what are you seeing out there from your perspective in the market, just from communications?
Most of the ones that I'm replacing are on-prem, but there are some that I'm replacing that are not on-prem, but they're small business class type of VoIP, like a Cox Communication type of solution. something of that nature, because, and usually when I'm replacing it is because it's not meeting their criteria, because the ISP is selling, they get the ISP and that's what they're good at, but when they put the phone system on it, they don't necessarily always, their sales reps don't always size it appropriately. So it creates it where it doesn't work well. So that's where we come in. I'm lucky enough, I have a master agent, so I can sell the ISP services, but not, I'll sell the phone services too there. So most of the customers, it depends on the size. Most of the small ones, if they have on-prem, it's a little small on-prem with a couple of analog lines or something like that. But my larger ones typically have a PBX on site and have physical phone sets and physical concentrators and things of that nature put in, and I go replace them because then I can show them the mobility of that. That was and that's what COVID helped us do.
But do you still see a lot of, I mean, I don't know the market. I mean, there's a market out there, but there's a huge opportunity of on-prem that are still out there.
There's tons of on-prem still out there. You would be surprised how many old Nortel phone systems that are analog lines coming in, tied in. They'll have anywhere from 5 to 10 analog lines in, and then they have a 16 phone set, and it's a old copper cards. There's tons of those out there.
Probably manufactured, discontinued, not supported.
Yeah, it's all refurb equipment now. There's tons of that still out there. But the reason why those people didn't go to this other is because technology wasn't there. The stability of affordable network services to run VoIP across wasn't there. Today's world with SD-WAN and how well broadband actually performs today, it's changed that.
Right. Well, I still think that's the huge, if you look at the model that Cytracom brings with our partners like you, it's the value you guys are so important to the community you serve, right? Because you're providing services, again, the reality is, people can buy communications off the internet, they can order it and stuff like that. That's easy. But you guys are bringing a value add because you're looking, again, from a solution perspective, what's their communication needs? Again, you're helping with business continuity at a big level, because obviously, we can help with voice continuity, but you're doing the BDR stuff, you're doing that part. You're looking at the security, but it's a huge service for the community, what you guys do for these businesses, because they don't have anybody to help them.
That's the whole role of what we're trying to do, is be their help, let them be successful at what they do. I tell every customer I go in, my job is to let you be successful at what you do. If you're successful at what you do, I've done my job.
Well, ultimately, they run a business, and you guys provide support for them to be successful with their business, to do what they need to do, and not worry about some of the back office things that they do. What question, I'll be like Dan Rather now. What question did I not ask you that I need to ask you?
Man, there's so many questions you could ask. I guess if you think about what we're doing here today and talking about what MSPs can do, going back to the very first thing that we talked about is getting involved in the community and listen to others that can help you. If anybody takes away anything today, is communication, and be willing to ask the question, say, I need help, can you help me? That'll make you more successful than anything, because it's not a weakness. A lot of us, we come up, and if you couldn't do the job or you had to ask a question that you thought you should know, that was a sign of weakness. It's not. The sign of weakness is not asking the question or asking for help. I had a company call me, it's a competitor, he's up out of Missouri, and they were actually talking, they got my name about being a reference for Cytracom. And they called me and says, why do you use them? And I went through the spiel, what's going on there. So then he went and started asking questions, which I thought were very good questions. So do you charge services to install it? Do you do this? Do you do that? And so I told him, I said, I don't charge to install it. I do that as an entry-level thing to get them to have a successful environment, and I'm betting that they will use me on my other services coming in there. So I don't add to the cost of what I'm gonna make with Cytracom. With that, I provide that service and do it on my dime on the implementation piece of it, and go do it. And it will actually help you grow your business. And so that's one of those where, far as I'm concerned, as a partner with Cytracom, is partner means help. Both ways, bi-directional, be willing to do that. So when you guys ask me for help, I go help because I know when I do, you guys will help me.
Well, when you definitely, I think it's a great relationship we have with us personally and with the company, and we definitely appreciate you. And I guess on that, obviously you've had some success, leading with Cytracom, and other good things come out of it. And I think that's, all the way we want to position it, because I think that's the power of the MSP model of doing that, getting your foot in the door, and then there's other opportunities. But again, it could be other opportunity that gets your foot in the door, but communication could follow. I think it's being perceptive and being again, paying attention and listening, and you'll find the opportunities, and then you'll see a lot of growth there.
I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this because I think it's important for us to share with everyone what we do to be successful, and help others go do that, because at some point we're going to need help and they'll remember it. So I think doing something like Cytracom Today is an important thing for Cytracom to do to help that community, because that's also going to get you guys out there with someone that might not wanted to partner with you before, but because of what you're willing to share and being open with them and sharing someone like me and others like me on this, I think is a very beneficial thing.
Well, off your point, first of all, at Cytracom, we're here to help our partners. We work together, but I know David on my team, Chelsea, they're always working with some of our partners to provide them things. And, our challenge is figuring out, what can we do collectively to help the group. But to your point earlier, obviously you've mentioned the different forums like ASCII and everything like that, but they can also ask their vendors, again, Cytracom, Datto, you go down the list, they all have different programs to help their partners, because obviously, it's a symbiotic relationship. It's everybody's best interest. We want to help our partners, and you want to help us, and we work together on that. But I think there's a lot of places people can go get help if they're just getting started as MSPs, or even if they've, a more mature MSP. I think, again, you always have to be learning and looking at new solutions for your set and things like that. So I think that's the way to go as well.
Getting involved. The partners have to get involved and be willing to share and say, hey, this is something missing. That's not only with Cytracom, but other partners I work with. And that's the relationship I try to get to know. I try to get to know the development guys. I know some of the development guys. I get in, know as many of the sales rep, the inside sales folks, the support group. Try to go to them, the marketing folks. I try to go get to know them, because the more I understand what they're trying to do and they understand what I'm trying to do, when it comes about saying, hey, this is missing. Here's an issue right here, and it's stopping us from being able to be successful. Everyone listens. It's not, there's a partner that just throws something over the wall and expects something back. So you've got to put the effort in and be willing to share and do it in a constructive way. And you will find, as a partner, your actual vendors that are supposed to be your partners will engage you more, and without you asking. That's the goal. It should be both ways that way. We have all these things, and there's a lot of times where people throw stuff on the wall and just expect the vendor to go take care of it, and that creates a bad situation for the rest of us partners that's trying to be there. So I quit worrying about that. I just do what I do and try to build that relationship that way. And if partners will do that, and you got to pick your set that you're going to go do it with, know what you're going to go to market with, and make that the best it can be. You'll add things on, but get focused. I have a saying with my team is, we don't want the Scooby-Doo effect. And anybody who's ever seen the comedy of Scooby-Doo, is right at the beginning of it, when he takes off 5 different directions, he comes right back because his tail's tied together. Right. Well, that's the Scooby-Doo effect. Don't try to do everything at the same time and be that squirrel looking both ways. Be focused. Not only as me, I got to be focused, but my team's got to be focused, and go and do that. Apply that same thing with your partners, with your vendors. If you do that same thing with them, it'll be a lot more successful.
Cool. Well, definitely appreciate your time today.
I enjoyed it.
And appreciate coming out. And
anytime.
Welcome to Cytracom Today, everybody.
Have a good one.